Typically, I consider myself a skeptic. I've never really bought into signs, fate, or any of those supposed glimpses into the future. And dreams. Well, they were just dreams, nothing more, until recently. My wife and I have been happily together for about 10 years, but interestingly, we weren't married for most of them. We dated for 8 years, even broke up a couple of times due to sheer stupidity. It wasn't until the last 2 years that we finally decided to settle down and live together. A few months after we moved in, I figured it was time to take the next step and proposed. Honestly, I wasn't too concerned that we hadn't fully experienced the day-to-day realities of living together. She said yes, and I was over the moon. She was thrilled too. For a year and a half, we lived blissfully in our official status. But not so long ago, I began to notice some oddities in my wife's behavior. She became much more distant, quieter. She seemed to be listening to me, but often it seemed that I was just talking to myself. When I was promoted to manager, her reaction was, well, let's just say she wasn't too enthusiastic. It took me a long time to get this promotion, but at that time my wife was my biggest supporter. There is silence now. I tried to brush it off. So what if she wasn't thrilled about the promotion? But what really hurt me was how she started taking advantage of the fact that I was working late. She came up with the most bizarre excuses to leave the house. I couldn't understand it. Why not just tell me the truth? Why lie? To be honest, I didn't dig too deep. After all, we've been together for so long, and 10 years is not something you can dismiss lightly. At night, I had nightmares where my wife just mocks me and says what a loser I am, and that I am of no use. But after waking up, these dreams somehow. One morning, on my way to work, I had this nagging feeling that something wasn't quite right. I entered the office building and decided to have a smoke to clear my head before starting the day. As I walked into the smoking room, I saw Stella from marketing. Stella's a woman who's had her fair share of failed relationships with men. I've known her for a long time, ever since I worked at Sony. Amelia, the analyst in our office, is another one with a wealth of relationship experience. Out of nowhere, I decided to share my concerns with Stella. I don't know why. Maybe I just needed someone to talk to. Hey Stella, you get all these feminine tricks, right? Maybe you can explain what's going on, so I don't completely lose it. She flashed a grin and said, go ahead, spill it. You know, I've been married for a long time, and everything was fine, until recently. Lately, I've been staying late at work, and it feels like my wife has completely changed. It's as if she's not the person I married. She barely talks to me anymore, and has started going places while I'm working. She's lying now, something she never did before. She was always open and honest. And then there's the silence when I talk to her friends. Maybe she's mad that I'm coming home late. Stella looked at me like I was an idiot. You guys are so blind, it's unbelievable. Didn't it occur to you that maybe you've bored her after all these years? I mean, maybe she has a lover, and you're still stuck on this idea. Look closer, man. You're not seeing the bigger picture. What do you mean? I asked, feeling confused. Forget it. I shouldn't have asked you anything. I've been such a fool trusting you. Stella didn't directly mention an affair, but I couldn't stop thinking about it after she spoke. Her words just made everything worse, and I couldn't shake the thought of possible betrayal. The only thing keeping me grounded was the belief that we were a family. We had love and plans for the future, right? Later, after work, my wife and I were heading to our old friend Carter's birthday. She didn't put up any resistance, agreeing to go with me without any more excuses, and that gave me a little hope. I even started to feel a little calmer the obsessive thoughts beginning to fade. The last time, I accidentally set Carter's sneakers on fire, so this time we decided to give him a new pair as a joke. I left the decision of picking them out to my wife, who spent quite a while choosing the perfect pair. In the end, we got him some fluffy ones with cartoon characters on them. When we handed them to him, Carter laughed so hard he couldn't stop for a while. The evening went great, and I got a little carried away with drinking, maybe a little more than I should have. Eventually, we got home, and I went to bed with my eyes closed. A month has passed. The next thing I remember is standing on the doorstep of our apartment, confused. From the next room, I heard a woman laughing, probably my wife. I tried to step inside, but something was stopping me, like an invisible wall was blocking the door. I felt a surge of anxiety and pushed forward, trying to get through, but no matter what I did, I couldn't. Then I looked down and saw them. The stupid slippers we'd given Carter at the party. I pushed them with my foot, but they wouldn't budge. What the hell is this? I tried to shove them aside, but the slippers were stuck tight, blocking the doorway. And then it hit me. How the hell did those slippers end up here? My heart raced as I finally opened my eyes. The next morning, my wife was in the kitchen, making coffee. I followed her in, and without thinking, I blurted out, "How low have you been sleeping with Carter?" She froze, her whole body tensing up. Slowly, she turned to face me. "Who told you that?" She didn't have time to come up with a lie or a smart answer. All she could do was bombard me with more questions. "Well, you just confirmed that," I replied. It was like I had been asleep all these years, but now I was finally awake and seeing things clearly. The look in her eyes told me everything I needed to know. It all became painfully clear. I still hoped it was just a bad dream, but she had given herself away. The question I asked her was a test, and she failed it miserably. 10 years of our life together, gone in an instant. When I arrived at work, I headed straight for the smoking room. Stella joined me a minute later. "You know, you were right," I said, my voice heavy with sadness. "I know. I always knew," Stella replied with a confident nod. I must have looked genuinely shocked. After talking to Stella, I learned that she had seen my wife out with Carter, more than once. My wife had begged Stella not to tell me, and out of some strange sense of loyalty, Stella kept it a secret. That's how it all fell apart. My marriage broke up. I was thinking about starting a family, having children with her, especially after I got a promotion. But in the end we got divorced. However, I couldn't help but wonder, why did she stay with me all this time? What made her cheat on me? It all seemed so insignificant now, the reason for her betrayal. If she ever really loved me, that's up for debate. But I've learned my lesson. Working late might have been part of the problem, but it doesn't explain everything. And as for dreams and signs, I've learned to take them more seriously now. They can sometimes point to things that matter, things you can't ignore. Oh, and I don't wear sneakers anymore. Never again. Business boots or boots suit me. At least there are no surprises in them.